Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is a backyard garden walk-around tour here in late September. I did one of these in the front garden just last week maybe. And just in a week, the front was definitely showing a little more color, but with these cooler nights, you can start to see some of the color starting to fade out of things a little bit. Still looks great back here. I'm probably 3 to 4 weeks away from actually putting in pansies and snapdragons and some cool season things. And so there usually is a little gap for me where, you know, some of this other color starts to go away. But I did add a lot of fall blooming things into this garden, and some of those are starting to happen now. So let's get started taking a look at some of these things. Impatiens still look great. And so there's some annual flowers out here that still look absolutely fantastic. I don't think that they need to go anywhere anytime soon. Probably get another 3 to 4 weeks out of them before they will go. This is an example of an item that was added to the garden that is for fall color. Here's an anemone. Several of these have been planted around the landscape, and the foliage looks great on these all season. And then here you go into fall, they really start to take off. This Ageratum that's behind it is still looking great. These I do from seed every year. I get these seed from Johnny Seed, and you can't beat the color on those. They've been blooming in that spot since May. In fact, they've been cut back a few times, and they still putting on a big show, still budded up. I think they'll go until we get a frost sometime in late October. Here's one of those hibiscus that were also done from seed. I did the entire other side of the fence with these, and one was planted on this side. You can see from a seed how big one of these can get in a single season. And I just got seed in for these next year. I love using these in the landscape. They don't really bloom for me. I have, and they're just annuals, but when you can do something from a pack of seed and get that much out of it during the season, who cares? Got a few salvia that are still blooming, but the salvia is definitely, once these days start to get shorter and the nighttime temperature is cooler, they're definitely taking a step back. All the butterfly bushes are still blooming great. Grand Cascade that we'll look at in a minute looks fantastic. This is maybe the best season for sunshine ligustrum. The late summer going into fall is when this plant really shines. Down underneath it is one of many asters that are planted in the landscape. These are fall blooming asters. This is a pink one, blue ones, and others that we'll see as we walk around back here. Still looking good. There's some caladiums that are planted here and there, and offer some good color all season. The Serenita, this is another example of an annual that probably is ready to come on out. There's still some color on it. Bees are still working it in the afternoon, but it's starting to wind down at this point. This St. John's wort, this Brigadoon, it's in the back. I put the chair here a lot of times and have my back to these plants here, and that Brigadoon St. John's wort it's this gold all the time. It's just so fantastic. It just makes a great backdrop, and it looks great in front of this Loropetalum as well. One thing, there's several Osmanthus fragrans planted in this landscape. One is right here, and there are a few flower buds on it along the stems, and it's got a few flowers on it. I've noticed more in the neighborhood or ahead of this one, so I don't have that many flowers on them yet, but I expect here as the nights get cooler to have lots of fragrance from these Osmanthus fragrans as the fall goes on. Let's get out of here, see what else we can find. 2 more Osmanthus fragrans just past that Loropetalum, and again they've got a few little flowers on them. I can smell it, so I know there's a couple flowers in there, but for the most part they haven't really gotten started yet. Let's see. Again, I plant this bed edge. The bed edge is planted intentionally, you know, to have color all season, whether it be foliage or whether it be flower. So this Veronica, which there's a bee on right there, it's just a great choice along this bed edge. I bothered him, and so he left, but you can see the great color that's on those. To the right of that, there's some beautiful pentas that still honestly look as good as they have all season long. There's a salvia back behind it that's probably the hummingbird's most favorite, probably the most visited thing by the hummingbird in this entire landscape. Lots of things for hummingbirds out here. This salvia is just constantly has a hummingbird on it. That Grand Cascade butterfly bush, that thing just blooms and blooms and blooms, and it really hasn't been cut on other than a few limbs coming out onto the turf. I addressed that this plant's a little bit too big for the edge of the turf right here, so I think it's gonna, this winter, it's gonna slide back into the, further back into this bed, so something lower can go along the front. It's definitely outgrown the space that it's been given. Here's some Angelonia, and I may use a few less Angelonia next year. They get pollinators on them early in the season, but then, like someone else said, the flowers kind of outlast the nectar. They probably have needed to be cut back to get new flowers on them during the season, but overall, for what I'm trying to do about, trying to get butterflies and things are right around this lawn, they're not the top of the list for me. A few things back here. The Tokyo Tower, Kyananthus looks fantastic. Somebody asked me about it the other day, just throwing out whether it was healthy and happy, and I hadn't shown it in a while, but it looks great. I expect more flowers on it this next spring. First spring it was in the ground, it had, like a handful of flowers, but I think next spring it'll have quite a few. This bed is, this landscape, this is Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B. Small lot, and so I have a lot of vertical elements here. Another example of that is this Viburnum nudum, which as you can see is just very vertical. So I can get more pieces in here by having them just go, very vertical elements. My contorted Japanese maple, looking great. Pot's actually a little bit crooked right now, but expecting some great fall color on this one here in the next few weeks. Got a few blooms going on gardenia still back here, and it's I think that's about the end of it. There might be a couple more buds on it, but this is a diamond spire, which you can see is growing more vertical, rather than outward. Mojo Pittosporum behind it, looking absolutely fantastic. What a great colorful evergreen shrub. And that purple ajuga that's behind it, those two things together, I was noticing that earlier, that how nicely that's worked out. The back path back here definitely is the least developed place in this entire garden, but come late summer, early fall, the Farfugium really take off, and this is an example of one really looking great. It will likely get a flower spike here as we head into the fall. There's one more I'll show you a little further down the line. Again, Impatiens, still looking great into the fall, and really, as good as they've looked all season. This is one of those that you can, definitely, if you can carry them this far through the season, then we can go well, almost to November probably. Those will still be looking great. Another big group here behind me, still looking fantastic. And here's another Farfugium, and again, I expect to see flowers on this as we go forward in the fall. Most of the season it didn't look like much, and now here we are in September, and it's just stunningly beautiful. Same thing with a few cast iron plants. I put a few, if you plant cast iron plants or aspidestra, expect that it's going to take a year, maybe a little bit more, to get them rooted in enough that they really start to put on some growth. So the 3 or 4 or 5 that have been placed into this landscape have not looked great until recently, and they've really started to take off. This is a beautiful one that has a yellow variegation. The summer jewel salvia still look great. I've showed these several times this season. White ones, pink ones in here. Pollinators still absolutely going crazy for them. It's a little late in the day, and so I've almost waited about an hour too long to get started out here. So not quite as many things swarming around. The Kufia, all the Kufia in the back garden space still look great. Celosia right there. The red salvia behind it, still drawing in hummingbirds every day. Going a little further out, lantana, looking absolutely amazing. It's eaten some shrubs back here, and my shrubs that are in this area have grown enough this year that when some of these perennial annual things die back, this garden's still going to look pretty full this fall and winter. That was issue last year was, the shrubs were this big because they were all newly planted, and so when all this went to sleep, it was pretty bare through these beds. But this winter, I think still going to be lots of things going on. There's another aster planted right here. It's starting to show some color as well, budded up like crazy, and that one will look good. That one will look good for a long time. Another annual that carries into the fall pretty well is vinca. Annual vinca really almost puts on a second flush when the nights get a little bit cooler. The really, really hot summer days can be a little tough on it, but if you can get it to carry through August into early September, it gets a pep in its step again. So I have dahlias wrapping around the vegetable garden area from here all the way around to the other side. The ones on this side were done from seed. I get those seed from Johnny Seed. You can get dahlia seed from all over the place. I do like this collection from Johnny Seed because a lot of them are singles. Some of them are doubles, but most of them are singles, and the bees can get in here easily. The ones as it wraps around the corner over there are doubles, big, larger flowers. So here's a montage of the dahlia color that's going on right here at the end of September.
Walk with me. Let's leave the past behind. Walk with me. There's something else we need to find. Say you'll go, don't make me wait. There's no need to hesitate.
So here's an amazing fall performer right here. This is this Mona Purple Plectranthus. There's a Mona Lavender that's been on the market for a long time. This Mona Purple is a newer one. This plant is interesting. It blooms like crazy in the spring and then kind of slows down in the heat of the summer. Doesn't really like 90+ degree days, but as soon as the nighttime temperatures back off a little bit, daytime temperatures back off, this thing just comes back to life, and you can see that's what's happening there. Now, there's some Ageratum that were just bought as bedding plants. Nothing can be easier than just tucking these into a little corner around a rock like that, and they just do that all summer long. There's really nothing to do on them. Again, lots of salvia out here, but I can definitely tell that all of my salvia are, whereas that Plectranthus, really gets going when it gets cooler. The salvia are like, oh, time to go to sleep. So I can see them slowing down a bit, but they're still performing here at the end of September and have been since May. A few more pentas behind it, and I'd like to walk around here and show you the area around the screen porch steps, because all the containers look great. All of the New Guinea Impatiens still performing just as well. So the New Guinea Impatiens and the other annual Impatiens, both are annuals, but both types of Impatiens are still looking great here in the cooler weather, and really look better in the cooler weather, honestly. The Angelonia that's here still blooming heavily again. Blooms are still beautiful on it, but I'm not getting many pollinators. This sedum ground cover that's going around the broken container all looks great, and I just keep it edged right there along the lawn. And here's a weed we can get while we're filming here. Variegated Daphne that's planted in there, looking great. I like this area is starting to really come together. Where things are really packed in here kind of tight, and they're all pops of color that will be doing, different things at different times, like the ground cover Loropetalum that's planted in the back. When some of these annual things come out, this little blue spruce will be very, very showy during the winter time. There's a camellia that's budded up and ready to bloom. So even as I start tearing things out, as they slow down, we're gonna see more and more color. I'll show you in October. I'll show you in October, once I get pansies and a few other annuals in, that this is still gonna have a lot of color even then. And all the containers are looking great. Got a pumpkin back here because fall is kicking in, and sweet potato vine doing what a sweet potato vine does in the late summer and early fall. It's gone absolutely wild, but it looks great. So I think overall, I mean, you can't complain. This is late September, almost October when I'm showing you this, and so I like it. I'll be back with some sort of walk around tour toward the end of October once I switch out some of these summer flowering annual things for a few fall flowering annual things, and then the shrubs that have put on some growth this year will stand out on their own at that point. So thank you guys for following along. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification so you're alerted when I upload videos, and thanks for watching.